Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Patrick always believed trust was the foundation of any solid marriage. At 38, a successful architect in Seattle, he'd built his professional life with the same dedication he poured into his relationship with Lauren. 9 years of marriage that seemed unshakable, filled with intimacy, shared laughter, and future plans. Lauren, a 35-year-old university professor, was the kind of woman who lit up any room, intelligent, articulate, and passionate about comparative literature. They'd met at an art gallery, where Patrick was admiring a modern installation and Lauren pointed out the Renaissance influences in the piece. The conversation flowed naturally, evolving into dinners, then weekends together, until 3 years later they exchanged vows in an intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Their routine was comfortable without being monotonous. Patrick worked on sustainable commercial building projects, often staying late in his home office reviewing blueprints and 3D renderings. Lauren taught 3 days a week at the University of Washington, plus mentored graduate students and served on academic committees. Every Friday, she had her sacred ritual, happy hour with her department friends. It was a group of 4 professors who met to unwind after the week, gossip about university drama, and simply relax away from academic demands. Patrick always supported these outings. He had his own soccer nights with friends and understood the importance of maintaining individuality within a marriage. That Friday in October started like so many others. Patrick woke early, brewed coffee for them both while Lauren finished getting ready for a morning meeting with the dean. She wore a gray blazer he loved, the one that brought out her green eyes. They kissed quickly in the kitchen before heading off to their separate commitments. Throughout the day, they exchanged casual texts. She mentioned a particularly brilliant student, he complained about a client undecided on finishes. At 5:30 p.m., Lauren messaged that she'd be leaving straight from campus to meet her friends at their usual pub, probably getting home around 11 p.m. Patrick replied with a thumbs-up emoji and returned to focusing on a cultural center project due Monday. The night passed peacefully. Patrick ordered Thai food, put on some instrumental background music, and dove into the structural calculations for his project. It was nearly 9 p.m. when his phone buzzed with a message from Tyler. They'd been friends since architecture school, when they'd shared an apartment and survived on instant noodles and big dreams. Tyler had dropped out in his 3rd year, realizing his true passion lay in food and hospitality. Now, at 39, he managed a sophisticated pub in Pike Place Market, a place that blended rustic charm with modern touches, popular among young professionals and university professors. Tyler's message was brief: "Dude, I need to show you something." "Sorry." Patrick frowned, puzzled. Tyler wasn't the dramatic type. Before he could reply, a photo arrived. His phone screen lit up, showing the pub's interior. Patrick recognized the exposed wooden beams and vintage chandeliers Tyler took such pride in. But it wasn't the decor drawing his attention. In a secluded corner, at a 2-person table bathed in softer, more intimate lighting, sat Lauren. She wasn't with her friends. She was facing a man, and their body language was unmistakable. There was nothing casual or professional about their interaction. Their bodies leaned toward each other, his hand covering hers on the table, their knowing smiles, the kind Patrick knew well because they were the smiles she used to reserve just for him. The man Patrick recognized sent a shock through his chest like an icy blade. Owen Blackwell. Associate Dean at the University of Washington, 52 years old, married for over 2 decades, father of 3 adult children. Patrick had met him twice at university events and thought him overly pretentious, the kind of guy who acted as if his opinion was infallible. Lauren had always defended Owen, saying he was visionary, revolutionizing the university's administrative structure, working tirelessly for faculty. Another photo arrived. This one was closer. The angle suggested Tyler had discreetly moved for a better shot. Lauren and Owen were even nearer now, and then Patrick saw it, a kiss. Not a casual, accidental goodbye between colleagues. It was prolonged, deep, loaded with the familiarity that only comes from repetition. Owen's hand was at the nape of her neck, fingers tangled in the brown hair Patrick had combed that very morning. The apartment fell deathly silent. The instrumental music playing in the background suddenly sounded distant. Patrick looked at his computer screen, where the Cultural Center project awaited his attention, but the lines and shapes had lost all meaning. He reread Tyler's message, "Dude, I need to show you something. Sorry." He typed with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. "How long have they been there?" The reply came quickly, "They got here about 40 minutes ago. Ask Jenna to keep a low-key eye on them. Got more photos if you want. Sorry I have to do this, but you deserve to know. Send everything." Over the next 15 minutes, Patrick received 8 more photos. Each one was a meticulously documented stab to the chest. Lauren and Owen sharing a glass of red wine, probably that Merlot she loved so much. Their hands clasped on the table in absolute intimacy. Owen gently brushing a strand of hair from her face with practiced tenderness. Lauren laughing that genuine laugh, head thrown back, that always made Patrick's heart race, except now she was laughing for another man. The final photo showed something that made Patrick abruptly stand from his chair. They were leaving the pub, bodies pressed together as they walked down the sidewalk toward the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, just 2 blocks away. They just left. Headed to the Fairmont, Tyler confirmed via text. Patrick walked to the apartment window, gazing out at Seattle's indifferent city lights blinking through the night. 9 years. 9 years building something he believed was real, solid, unbreakable. How many Fridays had this been going on? While he worked, trusting blindly, Lauren was with Owen. Her department friends were just a convenient lie. How many times had she come home smelling of wine and another man's cologne while Patrick kissed her forehead and asked if she'd had fun? He checked the clock. 9:35 p.m. If her friend's story were true, Lauren would be home in 90 minutes. But where was she really now? In a hotel room with Owen, doing God knows what, while Owen's wife was probably at home, just as innocent as Patrick had been 15 minutes ago. He wouldn't wait until 11 p.m. He wouldn't be the fool sitting home while his wife cheated just a few miles away. He grabbed his car keys, wallet, and phone. Sent Tyler a message, "Thanks, man. I owe you. Big time." Tyler replied with just a flexed bicep emoji. The drive back to the apartment felt like it lasted both seconds and hours. Patrick parked in front of their building, an Art Deco 6-story with partial views of Elliott Bay. He went up to the 3rd floor, where their apartment was, theirs, technically still theirs, and waited. He didn't turn on all the lights, just the living room lamp, creating an atmosphere that somehow felt appropriate for what was coming. He sat on the gray sofa they'd picked out together at Pottery Barn, the one where they watched Sunday night shows, where they'd made plans to renovate the kitchen next year. It was 11:17 p.m. when he heard the key turning in the lock. Lauren walked in with that light smile of someone who'd had a pleasant night, tossing her purse on the entryway table. She wore a navy blue dress Patrick didn't recall seeing before, or maybe he just hadn't paid enough attention. She seemed genuinely surprised to find him in the living room instead of the office. "Hey, love. Still awake? Thought you'd be working later." Her voice was normal, casual, without a trace of guilt or nerves. Patrick watched her for a long moment. How could she do it? That performative normalcy, that ability to move between worlds without letting the mask slip. "How were the girls?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. "Oh, it was great. Rachel was telling me about that new history professor." Lauren stopped mid-sentence, finally noticing something off in Patrick's posture. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "The girls." Patrick repeated, tasting the word like it was sour. "Rachel, Emma, Diane. How are they?" Lauren tilted her head, genuine confusion, or a very convincing act, crossing her face. "They're fine. Why are you asking like that? Patrick unlocked his phone, pulled up the first photo Tyler had sent, and turned the screen toward Lauren. He watched the exact moment the blood drained from her face. Her green eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly, her hands instinctively rose as if to physically push the image away. Patrick, I can explain. You can? He swiped to the next photo. And the next. And the next. Each image was a silent accusation more powerful than any shout. Please explain how you were with your friends when you were actually with Owen Blackwell in a romantic corner of Tyler's pub. Explain the kiss. Explain you two leaving together toward the Fairmont. It's not what you think, her voice faltered, losing strength. Isn't it? Patrick stood, and Lauren instinctively stepped back. He noticed and felt sick. Was she afraid of him? Or guilty? Then tell me what it is, Lauren. Because to me, it looks crystal clear. These photos were taken today, just hours ago. But something tells me it didn't start today, did it? How many Fridays? How many lies about meetups with friends that never happened? Patrick, please, let me, Lauren tried to approach, but he raised his hand, stopping her. No. You don't get near me right now. His voice was eerily calm, somehow worse than shouting. How long, Lauren? How long have you been cheating on me with that pompous jerk? Silence. Lauren stared at the floor, shoulders slumped. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. 14 months. The number hung in the air like a physical thing. 14 months. Over a year. Patrick quickly did the math. It started soon after that academic conference in Portland where Lauren had gone to present a paper. She'd come back from that trip changed, more animated, with new research plans. He'd chalked it up to professional success, proud to see her so motivated. What an idiot. The Portland conference, he said, it wasn't a question. Lauren nodded, still not brave enough to meet his eyes. That's where it began. We stayed up late discussing department structures, drank too much wine, and spare me the sordid details. Patrick tasted bile. 14 months, Lauren. 14 months looking me in the eye every day, sleeping in my bed, making plans with me while sleeping with him. How can you? It wasn't planned. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Patrick raised his voice for the first time. You chose to hurt me. Every time you lied, every time you made up an excuse, every time you kissed that married man, you chose this. Don't come at me with, it wasn't planned, like it was an accident that lasted over a year. Lauren finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. I know I have no excuse. I know I've been awful. But Patrick, I love you. No, the word cut like a knife. You don't love. Because love isn't this. Love doesn't betray, doesn't lie, doesn't destroy everything we built. And you know what's worse? Owen's married, Lauren. He has a wife, kids. You've become the other woman, the one who breaks up families. That's who you are now. He said he's leaving her, Lauren started, but her voice died when she saw Patrick's expression. He said. Patrick laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course he did. Let me guess, he told you he's unhappy in his marriage, his wife doesn't understand him, just waiting for the right moment. And you believed it? A smart woman, a university professor with a PhD in literature, fell for the most cliché line there is? It wasn't like that. Then how was it? Did he promise to make you department chair too? Mix business with pleasure? Patrick saw how she looked away and knew he'd hit the mark. My God. He used career promises. What kind of man does that? And what kind of woman accepts it? It's not about the promotion. Then what is it about? Were you bored? Was I not enough? Did 9 years mean nothing? Patrick felt something breaking inside him, but kept his voice steady. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing him completely fall apart. Lauren stepped closer again. This time he didn't stop her. She reached out to touch his face, but Patrick flinched as if her touch burned. "Patrick, I made a terrible mistake. I know that. But we can get through this, go to therapy, rebuild." "Rebuild?" He stared at her in disbelief. "Are you crazy? There's nothing to rebuild. You demolished everything. Reduced 9 years to rubble. And you know what's funny? I trusted you completely. Never suspected, never questioned. I was the idiot husband who believed every word you said while you played house with me and lover with him. I'll end things with Owen. It's over, I promise. We can. Do you think this is about ending things with him?" Patrick cut in. "It's not. It's about you choosing to betray him for 14 months. It's about every time you kissed me with the same mouth that kissed him. It's about you sleeping next to me after being in his bed. You can't erase that, Lauren. There's no therapy that fixes premeditated betrayal sustained over a year." A heavy silence fell over the apartment. Outside, Seattle carried on, oblivious to the personal drama unfolding on the 3rd floor of that Art Deco building. Lauren sank onto the sofa, her body shaking with sobs. Patrick remained standing, watching the woman he loved, still loved, painfully, fall apart. But he felt something harden inside him. There was a line that, once crossed, made return impossible. And Lauren didn't just cross it, she danced on it for 14 months. "I want you to leave," he finally said, his voice cold and final. "Patrick, no. Now. Grab what you need for a few days and go. I'll sleep in the office with the door locked. Tomorrow you come back when I'm not here and get more things. Monday, I'll talk to a lawyer. You can't kick me out of my own home." "Our home," Patrick corrected. "The one you chose to destroy. So yes, I'm asking you to leave. If you won't go voluntarily, I'll leave and get a hotel. But I won't share a roof with you tonight. Not after what you've done." Lauren stood shakily, wiping her face with trembling hands. She grabbed her purse and some clothes from the bedroom closet while Patrick waited rigidly in the living room. When she returned with a small suitcase, she stopped at the door and tried one last time. "Patrick, please. Don't throw everything away like this. We can." "I didn't throw anything away, Lauren. You did. You and your choices. Now live with them." The door closed softly behind her, the click echoing like thunder. Patrick stood alone in the middle of the empty living room, surrounded by memories that now felt contaminated. Every photo on the wall, every object they'd chosen together, every corner of that apartment was stained by betrayal. Finally, he allowed himself to collapse onto the sofa and let reality hit him full force. 9 years. 14 months of lies. All reduced to rubble in one night because a loyal friend decided truth mattered more than comfort. Patrick grabbed his phone and sent Tyler another message. She confessed. "Thanks for saving me from living a lie." Then he called another friend, Marcus, a divorce attorney. He left a message asking to meet first thing Monday. There was a lot to do: asset division, paperwork, legally undoing what Lauren had emotionally undone. But that night, Patrick simply sat in the dark, processing the end of an era and the painful beginning of another. He didn't know it yet, but this would be the last night he'd feel like a victim. Starting Monday, he would take full control. And Owen Blackwell would learn that destroying someone else's marriage came with consequences his privileged position couldn't shield him from. The weekend passed in a surreal haze. Patrick didn't answer Lauren's calls and temporarily blocked her number for peace of mind. He spent Saturday gathering documents, marriage certificate, bank statements, property deeds. He discovered things he'd overlooked because he'd trusted blindly: regular weekly cash withdrawals Lauren made every Thursday. probably to pay for hotels or dinners where credit cards would leave a trail. Strange expenses labeled academic materials that now took on sinister meaning. At 9 a.m. Monday, Patrick was in Marcus's office, laying all the documentation on the table. Marcus was meticulous, known for being relentless but fair. He listened silently, taking notes, occasionally asking for clarification. "Do you want to go aggressive or seek a settlement?" Marcus finally asked. "I want justice," Patrick replied without hesitation. "And I want Owen Blackwell to know there are consequences." Marcus nodded. Washington is a community property state, so assets are split 50-50 by default. But proven infidelity can influence the judge, depending on how we present it. The photos you have are gold. I'll draft the initial petition this week. "There's one more thing," Patrick said. "Owen's wife. She deserves to know. Technically that's not my area, but I can suggest a discreet way to inform her. Or you could do it yourself." Patrick thought for a moment. Caroline Blackwell. He'd seen her once at a university gala, an elegant woman, probably early 50s, stylish gray hair, genuine smile as she supported her husband. Completely unaware that same husband was cheating on her with a subordinate at work. "I'll do it myself," he decided. She deserves to hear it from a person, not an anonymous message. It took Patrick 2 days to gather the courage and find her contact information. He learned Caroline was a retired corporate lawyer now devoting her time to historic preservation nonprofits. On Wednesday afternoon, he met her at a cafe in Capitol Hill, neutral and public enough for a difficult conversation. Caroline arrived on time, clearly confused to see a man she didn't recognize. "Patrick," she confirmed, extending her hand politely. "Your message was vague but urgent. Do we know each other?" "Briefly, at a university event about 2 years ago. I'm married to Lauren Hayes, professor in the literature department." Patrick paused, watching recognition dawn in her eyes. "Was married, more precisely." Something shifted in Caroline's expression. Her politeness remained, but caution crept in. "I see. And this concerns me because..." Patrick hadn't planned on beating around the bush. He pulled his tablet from his bag, opened the first photo, and slid it across the table. "Because my wife has been having an affair with your husband for 14 months. And I thought you deserved to know before everyone at the university found out." He watched Caroline pale as she processed the image. Patrick slid more photos across, each one chronologically documenting the betrayal. To her credit, Caroline didn't cry or have a public breakdown. She just went very, very quiet, studying each image with a lawyer's eye for evidence. "How long have you known?" she finally asked, her voice controlled. "Since last Friday. A friend works at the pub where they met. And you're telling me because..." "Because no one deserves to be the clueless fool. I was for 14 months. I won't let you be too, not even one more day." Patrick met her eyes, saw reflected pain he knew intimately. "And because Owen was using promises of academic promotion to keep Lauren hooked. He's a predator, not a passionate lover. You deserve to know who your husband really is." Caroline closed her eyes briefly. When she reopened them, there was a determination that hadn't been there before. "Thank you. I know this wasn't easy to do. Most people wouldn't. Most people also wouldn't find out through a loyal friend. I was lucky in that, at least." They talked for another 20 minutes. Caroline revealed she'd noticed signs she'd ignored: last-minute trips, frequent late meetings, emotional distance. She'd chalked it up to the stress of his associate dean role, never imagining infidelity. Patrick shared the timeline he'd pieced together, and Caroline filled in gaps from her side. The betrayal was more systematic than either had imagined. Owen was an expert at compartmentalizing lives, lying with frightening conviction. When they parted, Caroline briefly squeezed Patrick's hand. "He'll pay for this. I have very well-connected friends at the university. And unlike Lauren, I know exactly how to play this game. Patrick didn't know it then, but that handshake sealed Owen Blackwell's fate. In the weeks that followed, events unfolded with surprising speed. Caroline, using the discretion of an experienced lawyer, began her own investigation. She discovered Lauren wasn't the first. There were at least 3 prior cases in the last decade, all involving junior professors or administrative assistants. Owen systematically used his position of power, promising career advancements he rarely delivered. Worse, there were rumors he'd recommended transfers or even contract terminations when affairs ended and women threatened to expose him. Caroline compiled it all into a devastating dossier and handed it directly to the university president, bypassing Owen entirely in the hierarchy. Simultaneously, she filed for divorce that would cost Owen half the considerable wealth they'd built over 23 years of marriage. The university, wanting to avoid public scandal and potential institutional harassment lawsuits, offered Owen a deal: voluntary resignation with a neutral letter of recommendation, or a formal investigation that would certainly end in dismissal for cause and possible loss of tenure. Owen, advised by lawyers, chose resignation. Within 6 weeks, he left the position he'd held for 8 years. Lauren faced consequences too. Though she couldn't be fired for a consensual affair, the Academic Ethics Committee placed her under review. The promotion Owen had promised obviously never materialized. Worse for her was the social ostracism. Colleagues who learned of her role in Owen's downfall avoided her. The department became hostile. 6 months later, Lauren accepted a position at a smaller university in Spokane, effectively a demotion in every sense. Patrick and Lauren's divorce was finalized in 4 months. Mediation determined a 50-50 asset split, but Patrick kept the apartment by paying her share. It was worth having his own space free of shared memories. He sold all the furniture they'd chosen together and completely renovated, turning it into something new. 15 months after that fateful Friday, Patrick stood at the launch of his biggest project yet, a sustainable cultural center in South Lake Union that had consumed 2 years of his life. The structure blended recycled glass with reclaimed wood, vertical gardens, and solar panels seamlessly integrated into the design. He felt proud, professionally fulfilled in a way he hadn't expected possible during the darkest months of his divorce. At the opening party, Tyler showed up with an expensive bottle of bourbon. To the talent I always knew you had, and to the freedom to finally express it without distractions, he toasted. Thanks, man. For everything. Especially that night. Patrick took a sip, feeling the warmth of the liquor go down. You saved me from living a lie indefinitely. It wasn't easy sending those photos. I spent 2 hours debating whether I should. And I'm grateful every day you decided you should. Truth hurts, but lies destroy. Near midnight, as the party thinned out, Patrick stepped onto the cultural center's terrace. The nighttime view of Seattle was spectacular from there, city lights reflecting on Elliott Bay, the Space Needle glowing in the distance. He thought briefly of Lauren, wondering how she was doing in Spokane. Then he let the thought go. She was the past, a closed chapter in a book he'd already shelved. His phone buzzed. A message from Sophia, a fellow architect he'd met at a conference 3 months earlier. They'd gone out a few times, their conversations flowing naturally without unrealistic expectations or baggage. Saw the cultural center photos online. Stunning. Congrats, followed by celebration emojis. Patrick smiled, replying, thanks. Want to see it in person? I can give you a private tour this weekend. The reply came almost instantly, I'd love to. Saturday afternoon? Perfect. I'll pick you up at 2 p.m. Patrick put his phone away and took a deep breath of Seattle's night air. There was life after betrayal, he'd discovered. Maybe even a better life, because it was built on truth instead of illusions. Lauren had taken 9 years from him and left an emotional scar that would always be there. But unintentionally, she'd also freed him from a relationship based on lies he'd never have chosen knowingly. Owen lost his career, marriage, and reputation. Lauren lost her city, colleagues, academic status, and a husband who genuinely loved her. Both paid the price for choices they'd made again and again over 14 months. And Patrick? Patrick rebuilt. Brick by brick, project by project, day by day. He discovered he was stronger than he'd imagined, more resilient than betrayal had tried to break. The pain faded with time until it became a distant memory, something that had happened to another version of himself in another life. He walked back inside the cultural center, toward the lights and laughter of the last guests. Tyler was chatting with Marcus about soccer. Sophia had sent another message with a heart emoji. Life went on, turning in cycles of endings and beginnings. And this time, Patrick was living the real version of it. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.